What's up, guys? It's JR. Welcome to another edition of JR Off Air. Please subscribe if you haven't. This is on YouTube. It's on Spotify. It's on Apple Music, wherever you're checking it out right now. Please subscribe. I appreciate it. I got a goal of trying to get to 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. If you can, just look up JR Off Air on YouTube. Hey, so really excited to have this person on the show today. She's a friend of mine. I actually met her when she first got a record deal from Nashville from a label called Big Machine. That's like Florida Georgia Line. Was Valerie is like their sub label. But anyway, point is she's super talented. She actually lost that record deal, which was a hard thing for her, but she has pressed on. She's gotten some huge reviews in some of the biggest papers around the world and on, websites, obviously, because who reads papers anymore? And she is pretty much the most country person I know. And I love teasing her about that. And she's as real as it gets. All right. So you're going to have a good time with her today. Her name is Tara Thompson, and she is on JR Off Air. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
It's good to see your smiling face. I haven't talked to you in so long.
I put eyelashes on for you this morning.
Well, we appreciate that so much here at JR Off Air Podcast Incorporated. I am so excited to talk to you because you're one of my favorite people, just because every time I see you, you are always smiling for whatever reason. It doesn't really matter. And we've had some good laughs over the years, but tell me, let's start from the beginning. For people who don't know who you are, or maybe not, or super familiar with you, Tara Thompson from Chicago, Illinois, originally, correct?
No.
Yep.
Where did you get Chicago from?
I totally made that up. But anyway.
I was like, I'm from East Tennessee. Here's my tattoo.
I know. Did you really think I thought you were from Chicago?
I was like, wait, what?
I literally requested a horse on this show today, and you sent me a picture of a horse because you do have horses. No, I didn't think you're from Chicago yet. So again, Tara Gertrude Thompson, welcome to the show.
Tara Damn Thompson, if you're feeling sassy.
All right, there you go.
Whatever mood you're in.
Anyway, no, tell you where you're from originally, East Tennessee, right? Did you freeze?
I'm right smack dab where Dolly Parton's from.
Really?
Uh-oh.
I can see you now. Can you see me?
Oh, yeah, I can see you.
All right, cool. We're good? All right.
Yeah.
Love technology.
Yeah, I'm literally from, like, when you get off my exit to go home, it's like home of Dolly Parton. So that's where I'm from.
Have you ever thought about spray painting that to your name?
I thought about just like climbing up there and putting like a little picture and be like, and Tara Thompson too.
Why not?
I mean, I'm scared of heights, so I'd have to get like a wingman to do that for me.
Oh, there you go. Tall friends. You can get those.
Yeah.
Well, tell me, I mean, obviously being where you're from, I would think that naturally you're drawn to country music, but when did you think that, this is something I kind of want to do, or maybe I'm good at it? Like where did that come for you?
I have 3 siblings, so there's 4 of us.
Okay. And
all 4 of us are completely different. My mom always jokes, you came out of the womb singing, or just everything was a microphone. And, my cousin's Loretta Lynn, so it kind of runs in the family. I grew up watching her, not realizing that, like, how big she was. And I just thought, who's this lady wearing friffy dresses? Like, why do people love her so much? And then, the older you get, you realize, oh, she's the queen of country music. And just seeing how she interacts with the crowd and her sassiness and just tells it like it is, I'm like, I want to do that. So I just kind of, born into it, really.
Wow. I don't even remember. I don't know if I remember the whole Loretta Lynn connection. I can't talk today. Loretta Lynn connection. I don't know if I don't remember that.
I can break it down for you. It's pretty simple. So my grandma's dad and Loretta's dad were brothers. So they're first cousins, and then it just goes on down the line. But we have strong genes because we all got the same cheekbones.
Wow.
When I tell people she's my cousin, they're like, she's 89. How's she your cousin? I'm like, well, she's like my 3rd cousin, but I'm pretty sure she married her 3rd cousin, and I'm related to him too. So.
Well, it's fine. Not all family trees fork. It's fine.
Our family tree is all jacked up. And I'm like, it's a long story, but yeah.
You turned out all right.
Yeah, I guess.
So when you saw this woman and you're kind of fascinated by your cousin or 3rd or 5th cousin, we don't know.
Yeah.
Where did you think, okay, I want to do that? Like what draw you to that? And then what did you think, maybe I can do this?
I just, for me, being on stage is where I feel me the most. I can't describe it. It's like when I get up there, it's like I got people in the palm of my hand. I don't know if I get that from her. It's just like whatever I say. And I'm one of those people that just wing it. I never plan what I'm going to say. What am I going to, it's just like, I don't know. It's like I just come alive. It's one of those things that you're just like, I was born to do this. And I'm still trucking,
Yeah.
Still trucking along.
Well, tell me about growing up. I mean, besides outside of music, what was life like for you as little Tara?
I mean, we're country folks. We got donkeys and horses, and my mom, she's just tell it like it is. Always on 4-wheelers. We do 4-wheeler trips, bonfires. I mean, we're people I feel like don't believe me until I bring them back home, and they're like, "Oh, your family's crazy, but a good crazy. Like we're just wild." And we're very like, come on in. Everyone's welcome. Here, you want a shot? You want a beer? It's just, that's who we are.
By the way, anybody who's just listening to this on podcast and not watching the video, she casually held up a bottle of Jack Daniels like, oh, you want a shot? Like, it's always ready. It's always on standby.
I dug up in my cabinet. Look, you can see that a lot of it's been drained.
Yeah, I'm sure you really dug it up. Yeah.
I did. Yeah. Right
Great.
there.
So what's, obviously I met you when you were on a radio tour coming through with your own music, but lead me to that point of a record deal for you.
So I used to sing downtown Nashville.
Yes.
I also have 6 dogs. So I mean,
of course you do.
Oh, there's one of them. His name's Billy.
Hi,
so
Billy.
sometimes my tattoo covers up Hill. Yeah. And it just says Billy. And I'm like, it's my dog.
She has a tattoo, everybody, of Tennessee, and it says Hillbilly through it. This is not a joke. She's not an actress. This is really Tara Thompson.
If I ever become an actress, they're going to have to put some major concealer on this tattoo.
It looks good. You got to rock it.
No, but the guy that tattooed me, he capitalized B. So people think sometimes Billy's on my shirt, on my arm. And I'm like, oh no, it's actually Hillbilly. But yeah, no, I grew up, I started singing in the bars downtown Nashville, passing the tip jar for like 8 years. And they're 4-hour shifts. And I think, honestly, like I remember when I first got my record deal, everyone was like, oh man, radio tour, it's going to kick your butt. It's going to be so hard. It's blah, all these things. And I loved radio tour. Like for me, everyone was always like, how are you always so happy and interject? And it's like, I don't know. I think that singing in bars and doing 4-hour shifts, and I would do triple shifts, double shifts. I sang every week except for Sundays because that was dedicated to football and then NASCAR. I'm like, I do not work on Sunday.
Thought you were going to say the Lord, but okay.
And the Lord.
I was like, all right, well, that's fine. That's one thing to do.
And the Lord.
Of course.
I'm like, church, Jesus, NASCAR, and football.
I love it.
But, I did that for years and years and years. And then, I slowly trucked my way over to Music Row. I kind of did it backwards, but I am a firm believer of everything that happens for a reason. So the way I did it was the way I was supposed to do it. And I think it set me up for like when I do perform, it's an easy thing for me. It's just like, oh, you go from singing 4-hour shifts to you got 30 minutes. And I'm like, 30 minutes? What?
Yeah. Right.
Or and so I did that for years. And then when I got my record deal, when I signed with Big Machine, which I'm independent now, I'm all on my own. It was game changer. It was like my life just turned upside down. I went from doing 4-hour shifts passing a tip jar to flying, driving every state, popping in, you know how it is. That's how I met you. So.
Well, for some people that don't know how a radio tour works, if like you're a new artist or whatever, you get signed a deal and they say, wait, we want you to introduce you to everybody in radio. It's because that's potentially where you want your song to be played, obviously on the radio for exposure and all that. So someone like Tara will, get signed and then they say, all right, we're going to take you now to meet everybody that you need to meet. And by the way, you're going to perform in everything from a backseat of a car to a conference room to maybe there might be a performance studio for you, or maybe in the middle of a restaurant. So I literally, and here's a name drop. I was literally talking to Ashley McBride about this Last week I saw her open for Luke Combs, and she sang for myself and my old boss in a steakhouse.
Wow.
In the middle of everybody. And as you know, Ashley doesn't sing quietly.
Right.
Yeah. So she was like belting out, like, and God bless her for it, belting it out. And I was like, just that you have to, and that's so hard because you're getting 15 minutes with a program director who's a programming station. And I really try to see it from your side as you're getting to meet us. You're trying to see how we're responding to your music. You're trying to sell us on your personality as well and your music. And everything's out of context. It's like auditioning for a role where you're going to be in Titanic, yet you're just sitting in a chair, no water around you, no boat, no nothing. And you have to pretend that everything else is going around. I mean, that seems terrifying to me.
Jack, I'm flying. I'm like, no, that's a great way of putting it. It's like you're in an audition and you're trying to get these people's attention and you're just like, you're telling your story, but you only got so much time.
Right.
And then it's like, all right. And you're trying to get your song added and you're competing with everybody. I just never treated it like a competition. I was just like, you know what? I'm going to give them me and I'm going to be all of me, take it or leave it type deal. You know,
do they give you coaching? I mean, I've never been on the artist side of it. Did they coach you up at all? Of like, hey, this is what you need to do, or this is what we recommend, or?
You know, I don't remember if I had, I don't know. I don't think I did do coaching. I think they kind of told me, like, listen, you're going to be in awkward situations. You're going to be, just like you said, you may be singing in a steakhouse or, you know, you're going to be in this room where some people are not even going to be paying attention to you. And you're sitting there like, hello, hi, hey.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like an audition, which is kind of intimidating. You're going into this room and then sometimes it's just dead quiet and you're just like, hello, I'm Johnny Cash. Like, it's like that type of deal where you're just like, okay. I just have a good way of, people think I'm funny for some reason. So I just get them with that. And my songs themselves are just, I can make people laugh real easy. So I break the ice and then it's just wing it. I think for Big Machine, they were probably pretty nervous with me because like, you need to rehearse what you're going to say. And I'm like, oh, I don't do that. Like, I got it. And they're like, well, you got to kind of like have an idea. And I'm like, just trust me. Trust me, I got it.
I definitely think you got it.
I think my first radio visit was in Chicago.
Here we go. Full circle.
It was.
Your hometown.
Yeah, my hometown, Chicago.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that had to be kind of intimidating too. A big city like that. You're like, all right, are people going to get me in a city like that?
Well, and you know, actually Chicago was a great one because they're in New York, out of all the states, that was the first station that I heard play me on the radio. I remember being in the car and my rep, he was like, they're about to play your song. And I'm like, wow. And I had no idea there was rednecks and hillbillies in New York.
They're everywhere.
They're everywhere.
Right.
And if anything, New York was the one state that like craved country music. So I was like, this is weird. This is opposite of what I thought. Texas, I think, was the hardest because it's Texas, you know?
Right. No, I hear you. I think with, like you said, it's all like kind of supply and demand. Like there's not a whole lot of options in New York City to get country music. Now there's not one, as a matter of fact. That station went away, but yeah, the thing is, I think that people do crave that. And we always say, we use the redneck term endearingly, but it's like, if someone's always told me that, hey, there's rednecks everywhere. If you go to Nashville, downtown Nashville, you'd be like, wait, this is not what I thought country was all about. Cause it's very commercialized. It's kind of a mini Vegas.
Oh,
you get 100%. Outside there, kind of maybe where you live and all that. It's like, oh, now I get it. So, just Austin's the same way. Austin's a very cool city, but it's not what you imagine Texas being when you see it. So I totally get what you're saying that and what you're saying about that. And, when I met you, I don't think it really was that you were that funny. You were just going to drink me under the table. And I just was a little intimidated, to be honest with you.
And that's another thing, which I'm not proud of, but my days at Tootsie's, like the guy that ran to, he'd always be like, you are the smallest person and you can drink everybody under the table, to where people will be like, are you taking fake shots? Like, is that? And I'm like, no, hell no.
Did you work there or just play there?
Well, that was my job. I would do 10 to 2 shifts, take a break, go do the 6 to 10, and then 10 to close all the time. Like
playing or bartending?
Singing.
Oh my gosh.
Music, just nonstop. worked for tips. I mean, I had a wad of cash every night that I walked away with.
Did you have any legendary pop-ins when you were doing that? Tootsie's, by the way, is a bar that's right on Broadway in Nashville. It's iconic. Never been there. People like Miranda Lambert pop in there and stuff like that. So I didn't. Do you have any, like some crazy pop-ins while you were playing?
All the time. Terry Clark used to pop in all the time. I saw one time, this is insane, Chris Christopherson pop in. And I was like, I'm obsessed. Joe Nichols, I remember I was singing and he took the mic and like got up on the bar and sang. And I was just like, what is
that? Sounds like Joe. Like
you go up to him, you're like, you want to tip the band? This is Joe Nichols. Okay.
Right. I love that.
A lot of them, but yeah.
I think also something going back to the record label thing is people think that's when that happens, it's good. You're solid. You're set. And it's really not how it is. There's a lot of artists that get signed by deals. And sometimes it's, I don't know how to say this, but I think it's kind of low risk for them because it's like, all right, all you can do is potentially be great for them.
Right.
And if you miss or whatever or that you guys don't line or whatever you want to call it, it's really a small risk for them. But for you, it probably felt like a big break, right? Or did you kind of know that with your lineage that this may work out, this may not work out?
Oh, I went in there thinking, I've made it. You hear the stories where artists get dropped. I was like, not me. Mm-hmm. That's not going to happen to me. And I would say my biggest advice to someone who does just get a record deal is just know that you're replaceable and be you 100%. Buck up when they try to you should do this. Be like, that's not me. Or at least don't be quiet. Like I learned so much from Big Machine and they gave me so many opportunities that I would have never gotten. But at the same time, there's some things that I wish I would have been like, I don't want to record that song. I'd rather record this song. And I was just like, okay. Cause I was so scared of no, I don't want to piss anyone off or I don't want them. But that would be my advice to someone is be you to a freaking T. And if you don't know who you are, then you're not ready to be shopping for a record deal. Because if you're just trying to, fit in with everyone else, how does that make you different? Because everyone, and I did learn, because when I lost my record deal, I thought my life was over. I went through the 7 stages of grieving. Sometimes to this day, I think it's been 3 or 4 years. I'll still get upset talking about, I'm like, are we about to cry right now? No, but it's one of those things where you just have to know that you're replaceable and know what you want to say. Don't shop for a record deal because you want to be famous. Do it because you have something to say and you want to change someone's life with your music.
Right.
No,
I love that because that you are in the majority of what happens in this, type of thing. And it's all about how you rebound from this type of thing. So, and I don't even know if I want to call it a rebound. I think it's more of a pivot, really. Yeah. And you're just like, all right, cool. I'm going to go do this a different way. The goal's still the same. Let me just go do this a different way. So how did you see, where was your reevaluation after being dropped? What do you say? Okay, what's my strategy going to be?
And when I got dropped, I lost everything. The manager that I had just signed with, he was actually right beside me when I got dropped. It was complete one of those things where I'm like, say what? What just happened? You're what? And then he dropped me. My publishing dropped me. My agency let me go. I had nothing. And I was like, everyone's going to forget about me. But I would say the biggest thing that I took from that deal was my radio connections. I was so good on radio tour because I actually cared about the people and still reached out to them that I still had them reaching out to me like you. Like, what are you doing? Send me your songs. Where are you? And that helped me get through it because I'm like, people still care. And so it's just a matter of if you're good enough to get a record deal and someone saw that potential in you that's going to invest that money in you, then you can't quit. You have, if you're born to do this and you're doing it for the right reasons, then you have to keep going. Right. Otherwise, that was a waste of almost 20 years I've put in this, So
it's so true because we get a lot of people that call. I mean, it sounds crazy, but we get people that call the radio station. Hey, will you guys play my song? How do I go about getting my song on the radio? And I don't necessarily have the greatest answer for that. I mean, I think it's a lot of luck and opportunity coming together. But what's your play now as far as, I mean, radio is not necessarily the goal anymore, really. I mean, that's great. And it's a business that I'm in, but also I'm not dumb to think about how people consume music. So what's your strategy now of how you're going to do things and how you distribute your music now?
I think it's just being consistent. And the cool thing, I mean, I wish I still had the money that the label put behind me. That's a huge factor that you're like, dang. But I've learned how to find a distributing company, and it's more about like, you build these fans over the years. Like I have almost 500,000 followers on Facebook. So you have to give those people content,
right?
Which is like such a job in itself. But the more you're like persistent with that, and when you are independent, you don't have someone to be like, what do you think of this song? It's like, if you just put it out,
right.
Which is kind of scary because people don't realize, like, when are you putting new music out? And I'm like, it's not just that simple.
Sure.
Once you put a song out, you put all this work in, and they're like, well, what's next? And I'm like, what's next? That took forever. Like,
you're right.
Jesus, this is,
I love it. I love it. It's so real. It's so real. If people ever thought you were joking about being country, it's so great.
I'm like, Billy, I had to dig a 600-foot trench, not me personally, me and my dad, just to get internet out here because I live in a cabin in the middle of the woods. Like
you're Tara. You are Tara. That is it. But you know what? Going back to your what you mentioned about your Facebook following and your social media following, what I like about that is from a marketing standpoint that you probably don't get with a label is it is hyper focused you. These are people that are consuming you and are coming for you. You flip on a radio station. I think a programmer's job is to try to sum up the radio station in every 3 songs you hear. So if it's a poppy sounding or an older country song or a recurrent or whatever, they're trying to do it in that way. I'm coming to Tara for Tara's music. So I think there's an advantage in that a little bit. I mean, obviously the money part of it and being able to produce stuff and the time and stuff like that, it takes, but, and obviously money and promotion, all that's a big deal. But I mean, with a following like that, I mean, you really can market to exactly what your fans want to hear.
Exactly. Give them what they want. But don't tell them and then another thing is radio is always changing. They're always playing different things. I think Chris Stapleton is a great example of that because he was one of those guys that people were like, why are y'all not playing this guy? Why are you not playing this guy? Now that, and then the female thing, that's always a struggle. But I honestly, everything's going to be challenged. If it's not a challenge, then, I don't even know how to say that. But I'm one of those women, I hate playing the victim card. I hate when they're like, well, they won't play female. Put good stuff out and people will want it. Eventually, I think it all comes around in full circle. And if you're being real and people can relate to you, like these damn dogs, then it's going to happen.
Right.
If it's not happening, it's because you need to reevaluate yourself. Really. Yeah.
So what are you working on right now? Besides the trench to get better internet as your internet cuts out.
I don't know why, because I have great internet. I have like 5.
Well, according to who? The guy that lives in a shack next door or what?
My neighbors. I'm like, yodel-a-hee-hoo.
Yeah, the guy on the other end of the Campbell's soup can, that guy? Are you saying?
Yeah. I'm like, is this thing on?
Yeah, Ricola. No, but what are you up to now? What are you working on? What's going on? What's the plan?
Well, I have a full album recorded. I put a few songs out myself already from that album, but I just shot 2 music videos for songs. For a guy named Carl Jackson came all the way from California just because a guy that believed in me. I'm like, I got a low budget, but by God, I swear to God, if you build people around you that believe in what you do, people are willing to help because they're like, okay, she's got it. She wants it. And she wants it for all the right reasons. And a lot of these songs on this upcoming album is probably songs that a label would never, they'd be like, you can't put that out. Radio's not going to play that. I stopped thinking that way. I'm like, play it or not, people are going to come to it. And I feel like people can relate to my music because it's genuine and it's real. And it's a lot of these new songs I think I sent you one of my songs called The Circus. And that song, I never thought people would actually relate to because for me, that song's from the music business point of view. Like when I play it live, I always tell this joke. I'm like, it took me 10 years to get a record deal and only 3 years to lose the damn thing. And people are like, oh my God. And it makes them pay attention to the song. But that song, I had people messaging me, coming up to me like, when are you going to put that song, The Circus, out? Because they relate to it. I'm like, there's another one.
I love the dogs. I love the dogs happening.
They relate to it, being a doctor, being a lawyer, being a teacher, like, welcome to the circus. Any dream that you want to pursue, it's not going to be easy. There's always going to be bumps and challenges in the road. But that's part of it. And so that song I'm going to put out in the beginning of next year. And I actually recorded, I did the video in Loretta's dressing room.
Wow.
It has a really cool, it's literally like the mirror light. And I'm basically singing to myself, like everybody wants to run away and join the circus, you know?
Absolutely.
But it ain't easy.
It's not easy.
I have my sense of humor, my funny songs in there, but I have a lot of really deep, like, oh, she's been through something and she's telling us about it. Like people are like, where have you been? What have you been going? I'm like, stay tuned because my songs speak for themselves. It tells you everything. So, yeah.
So what's day to day for you? I mean, if you're not on tour or you're not playing a show every night, like what does life look like for you? I mean, I kind of know what it looks like on Instagram, but
God, it's nuts. Like, well, I have a stepdaughter now, 10 days a month, and she's a full-time job. And I've got horses. Who knew? I've always grown up around horses and they've always just been there, but having to take care of them, I'm like, this is like, holy cow. There's always something.
It's a holy horse, really.
Holy horse. Like, yeah. And these dogs, 6 dogs, it's like, that's even a job. But my morning starts at 6 a.m. They all want out, you know, and then cool stuff like this, getting to be a part of your podcast. But I feel like I'm nonstop. I'm like a clean freak too. I'm one of those people that's constantly cleaning everything. Yeah. That's me.
How much land do you live on?
We live on 7 acres. We actually board our horses down the street. Okay. Just because I'm in the woods, the grass here, it's like moss. I'm like, there is no grass for horses. Right. But yeah, it's very peaceful out here. I've been writing a lot. Lots of songwriting. I'm already writing for the next album and I haven't even put this album out. So
what's gigging look like for you right now? Like, where are you playing?
I've been playing a few like acoustic gigs. My friend Erin Enderlin, I don't know if you know Erin Enderlin. She's awesome. She's written songs for Alan Jackson and Leanne Womack and Luke Bryan. And she's doing her own artist thing now. And she's country. I mean, that's one thing that I think scares people, or at least record labels. They're like, you're too country. And I take that as a compliment now. I'm like, you know what? People want country.
Sure.
And we're kind of doing that. And she always brings me along on her cool gigs. She's been doing this thing called Wild Heart Wednesdays at 3rd and Lindsley. And I'll do a lot of acoustic gigs. But really, for the most part, I haven't been out on the road. I feel like everyone's fighting for the same gig. And that's just not my game right now. My game is putting stuff out on social media and just putting stuff out.
Yeah. I think it's a good point that you make about just being the whole thing where you say, like, people say, oh, you're too country. I really do think that country music, and you can look back at it over the years, is being such a cycle of you have, your Alan Jacksons, and then the timeline will be messed up if I say this, but like your Alan Jacksons, then the big pop will be like a Carrie Underwood, Rascal Flatts, and then it'll come back to, give me an artist here, just the timeline, of how it kind of cycles back. And I think we're coming to the point where people do miss, I would call, the traditional sound of country music. That's i.e. Stapleton or somebody like that, or yourself. And I think sometimes it's hard for labels to market that and figure out how to do that. Yeah. And I also think it's hard for radio programmers to figure out how to find their audience in that, because it's so diverse because of this huge spectrum of music that falls under the country blanket. Some people will disagree. We get complaints all the time, from listeners saying, oh, that's not country, or that is country, or why don't you play this song? Well, it's not, going back and forth. I feel like and I'm hoping that traditional sound, there's going to be a huge lane opening up for that.
I feel that too. Like, I really do believe with all my heart that you're correct. Everything cycles back around. And there should be more variety. Like not everybody, you got your pop country, you got your country, your Miranda Lambert, you know, everybody should have their own lane. You know, I hate when people try to like write for radio, and I'm like, don't do that. Just write something real and catchy that people can relate to. And you're gonna be relatable in that sense if you're being real. I swear with country music, especially country music fans, they can smell fake from a mile away. True. So, you know, I'm saying the word real, but my God, that's what you gotta be. That's what country music is. It's for me, I grew up listening to Chris Christopherson and Willie Nelson and Merle Haggard. And it's just, you don't hear those kind of songs anymore. And I've been pretty persistent on being traditional country. I've got steel guitar, banjo. I mean, it's in there. So. I
mean, honestly, what are you going to do? Be fake? I mean, it's hard to do that. I mean, you're definitely not that type of person, but if you start writing for other people or you're writing to fit a different mold, I just don't feel, and people could say, well, what works? I sold out a stadium or whatever. But I feel like the Florida Georgia Lines of the world, this is not a knock to them by any means. People would go, oh, that's a bro country or whatever. I say to myself, those guys have figured out a niche that works for them, and they sell out 100,000 seat stadiums. Good for them. Kenny Chesney, completely different. Old Dominion, completely different for them. But Stapleton could do the exact same thing, and people freak out over him. So it's like, I wouldn't understand why you'd want to write for somebody else or not write for some, you know what I'm saying? Like write in a way that's not true to you. Exactly. And I feel like the biggest challenge ever would be like, hey, Tara, please come write for an artist that is so different from you. I feel like that would be really tough too, wouldn't it?
Right. It is tough. And usually when people pitch me songs, which it's hard to pitch me songs because I write my songs, I would totally cut an outside song, but it would have to be, I'd have to really be like, I feel like I wrote this. Right. And every artist that you just mentioned is completely different.
Right.
Like Kenny Chesney, and Chris Stapleton, they don't even compare to each other. And that's what's so cool. And you know, another artist that I always thought had the best songs out of everybody, and he's freaking country, is Billy Currington.
Oh, the best.
He has the best freaking songs.
Yeah.
And they're country.
If anybody can ever find him.
Right.
I mean, he's either in Key West or the mountains or in Hawaii. We don't know, but that's pretty low stress guy. I feel like pretty low stress dude. But
right. And that's but because he has so many amazing songs, he doesn't even need to play shows because he puts such good music out. It's like, he can live that life. Because,
absolutely.
You know, it's all about, for me, it's good songs. It's the sad songs that you feel that you want to cry, and the songs that are, you know, turnip greens. Like, come on, that's a story. You're telling a story from the top to the bottom.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's awesome. I think. What are some who are some big songwriters that you would shout out in Nashville right now that are pretty amazing to you? Because I kind of nerd out, and this is the reason why I did this podcast. I like talking to people, and not just country music. I was talking to a friend that's in the Plain White T's that wrote for some other artists, but also wrote Rhythm of Love for Plain White T's, and that one song changed his whole life. Who are some artists that you think that may have some big records that I may know the records, but don't know the writers behind in Nashville that people should look up? Because I think looking at writing credits is very interesting to me. Yeah.
Well, I bring up Erin Enderlin again because she's one of those people that if you know her, if she has like diehard fans, and then some people are like, I've never heard of her, but my God, that girl can write a freaking song. She wrote Monday Morning Church for Alan Jackson.
Oh, wow.
And Last Call for Leon Womack. And she wrote one of my favorite Luke Bryan songs from the very beginning. It's called You Don't Know Jack. And it's talking about this homeless guy saying, you don't know Jack Daniels, like he lost his family. And she has a clever freaking way of wording things. You can take an idea to her and you're like, oh, I would have never thought to write it that way. And then my friend Alex Klein, she got a #1 with Tennille Arts, and she's now starting to like do her own thing. But that girl, she can play every instrument. She produces, she can mix songs, write them. And then Kelly Archer's another artist. She wrote my song with me and Al Anderson called My Dogs Are Home. And she's killer. There's so many. Jeffrey Steele, which I don't know if you know him, but he's written 1,000 number ones, Rascal Flatts number ones, Tim McGraw, and just, gosh, the list goes on with him.
Yeah.
And there's just so many people that you're like, oh my God. I remember when I first wrote with him, I walked in the building and I felt like an idiot not knowing who Jeffrey Steele was. And then you walk in his building and there's just plaques of like George Strait covered. And I'm like, oh, whoa, this guy's written a lot of freaking songs. And then, that's where I really got into the songwriting world, because I wasn't really I didn't know much of songwriters. I wrote with a lot of really big songwriters that I had no clue, which was probably a good thing, because they'd be like, Tara, you're writing with so-and-so today. And I'm like, okay. And then I show up and it's like, I don't even know who the guy is till the end after we're done. And it actually worked out in my favor, because they're like, you didn't, people go in there all intimidated. And I'm just like, hey, what's up? I'm Tara Thompson. I got this idea. And it's just,
you got to be that way.
You do. But I legit really didn't know these people.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty amazing what these songwriters, the people behind the scenes, you're just like, oh.
Yeah, a big name that people, you can look Google's names and he's on TV now, Shane McAnally. That was a name that I had always heard. And that's kind of like the upper echelon of songwriters. Yeah. But I thought he said something that was pretty humbling. He goes, I happen to be in the right room a few times. Yeah. When like a Casey Musgrave says, I want to write a song called Space Cowboy, but it's not that. You can have your Space Cowboy. Yeah. And he's like, you said that in front of me? Like he said that on TV one time. And I was like, wow, just talk about right place, right time. And then I just think when creative minds get together like that, that's an amazing thing. Have you had any, kind of situations like that where you're like, oh my God, that's a good idea. Let's develop this. I guess that's how all songwriting works, but you know what I'm saying though? Like something that kind of came out of thin air.
Right. Okay. So that happens to me a lot. Like I'll go into co-writes and be like, I don't know what the hell am I going to bring to this table. And usually this happens all the time. For instance, I have this song on my album called I Don't Sing Love Songs. And it's a waltz, believe it or not. People can slow dance to it. And it came out from me going, I don't want to man bash and I don't sing love songs. And they're like, that's what we're going to write. I don't sing love songs. And a lot of it just happens with talking. Like you don't have to go in and be like, I have this idea and this idea. It's just, let's just talk for a minute and get to know each other. And usually something that I spit out, they're like, what you just said is what we're going to write. And I'm like, what did I just say? And then you write it. So that happens a lot. I think people go into co-writes all like, oh, what idea? And it's like, just treat it as like you're a hang.
Yeah.
You're just hanging. Some songs you don't have to finish that day. You can circle back and you got a good one when you're like, some are hard to finish and you finish them a year later. You circle back and you're like, this song took a freaking 2 years to write, but but a lot of it's just a conversation.
I think a guy who's very conversational in his songs and also, just taking common phrasing would be Luke Combs. If you look at his titles, like Cold as You or Hurricane or, Forever After All, it's like, well, yeah, these are all things I've heard a bunch. Didn't know you were going to make a song about it, but I think sometimes the simpler things cut through the most.
Exactly. The simpler things cut through the most. You're right.
You can use that, by the way, if you want as a song.
Yeah, I'm like, the simpler things. I'll cut you in on that one.
Thank you. Words a third, I heard. I love it. Hey, well, I'm so happy I got to talk to you. I miss you a ton because you're the best. And last time I saw you, you won't remember it, but it was after the CMAs.
I remember that. Was it at Winners Bar?
It might have been. I think it was a William Morris party or something.
Yes, it was.
That. Yeah. I saw you and then Cole Swindell right after you. And it was pretty funny though.
I remember that. We took a shot.
We did. We did. Now, I don't remember that part, but yes, no, we did. The pickleback was our thing. That was the first time we met. We took a pickleback shot and we've been friends ever since.
No, I just love you. You've always been like my favorite and you're just so down to earth. And I remember when we first met, we went to, where did we go? It
was a hibachi type place. Yeah.
They cook in front of you. They'd sake, oil. We did those nasty shots and you had that. Did you have a big truck then?
I did have truck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I'm a weird
I didn't
man.
have a lot of shots because I was driving.
That's right. That's true.
And so you guys did. And then I took you and our friend Ashley Sidoti back to your guys' hotel,
Oh my
drop
God,
you
I
off.
love her. That's right. You're
And
right.
there was a person I was dating at the time who was not very happy about that.
Yes, I remember that too.
Yeah, that was that. I was like, I'm taking these people home, dropping them off. This is what's happening. But that is what it is.
Although we would have been married in another life.
Absolutely.
We're just perfect together.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You know, you being from Chicago and all.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things about you. Well, yeah. I mean, I want to know more about, before I let you go, what's going on, if you don't mind talking about what's going on in your personal life. What are you doing?
I'm just hanging. I am like always constantly working on my next.
Are we hitched now or what?
I did get married. I got married in Vegas.
Okay. I was like, did I miss something?
I'm not divorced yet. No, I'm just kidding. My husband.
Wow.
No. We're good to get. He's 15 years older than me. And I always said, I basically did the opposite, which this is another thing. Never say never. I said I would never date a guy that much older than me ever. I never date a guy with kids. I dated someone 15 years older. And I also said I would never get married. Got married.
Yeah.
Got a stepdaughter. And our wedding was freaking hilarious. We went to Vegas and had Elvis marry us.
Perfect.
And our vows were like, I'll never leave you at the Heartbreak Hotel. And I have all this on camera. I almost missed the wedding because there's a wedding right after. It's like wedding. I was so hungover. I made all these rules like, hey, you can't, because we had 20 people. It was during COVID, so you can only have so many people.
Right.
And I had my crazy mom who's just like sassy. I don't even know how we didn't get kicked out of Vegas with her being there. And we all, I was like, we can't drink the night before and we're going to be peer pressured because you know how my mom is and everyone that's coming. And I ended up being the one that was like, like almost missed the wedding. I woke up and was like, we're getting today. What time is it? And it was hilarious.
What's funny that I found in my life is that anytime you say, I'll never do that again, it usually happens. It's like, never say never is almost like you're cursing yourself if you say that. Like, I'll never, boom. It'll happen. It's really weird. Or you'll be presented with that opportunity again. But I couldn't adore you more. I'm so happy for you. And you're the greatest. Please come to, no matter, and by the way, I said I'd never live in Florida again. I live in Florida again.
You're back.
Oh my goodness gracious. So anyway, but we got to link up somewhere if it's Nashville or me feeding your horses or whatever, or chasing around your 6 crazy dogs.
Ride.
I'll come say hi to Billy.
Crazy. Bill, he's down here about my feet right now.
All right. Well, plug all your socials so people can check you out because I want them to, because you're amazing.
Okay. It's just, I think my Instagram is Tara Thompson Music. And then they all got the blue check mark. There's a lot of fake, everyone makes those fake accounts.
I have one. Yeah. I have a fake Tara.
They all do that. Yeah. Is that you?
That's me. Yeah. I run all those burner accounts for you.
Yeah. Make me feel, my family be like, hey, you got another fake account. You've made it. And I'm like, no, it's not that.
It's JR.
But it's Tara Thompson Music on Facebook, and then Tara Thompson, just Tara Thompson on Instagram.
Right, with the blue check mark.
With the blue check mark.
And there will be a photo of a horse at some point on that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, literally, I asked her. I think I said at the beginning of the podcast when I said, "Hey, there better be a horse behind you when we do this interview," and you literally sent me a video of a horse.
I literally was driving back from the horses. And if I had service, by God, there would be a horse right here, right now.
That would be amazing. We'll do it another time. You have to dig another trench. Please. We'll figure it out.
Let's do it.
Well, congratulations on being married. Congratulations on this new album. When's this dropping?
Sometime in the beginning of, like, right at the top of next year. January. Happy New Year. Bam. Here's a new song.
How do you calculate that, by the way? That's a question I have for you. How do you decide, all right, I want to put it out now?
It's really hard, actually. That's another thing. I'm actually struggling with that because it's all about planning. You really have to, I sat down with a lady not too long ago and she was like, give people a new song every 6 months. And I'm like, okay, that's a good plan. That's consistent. Yeah. So,
So the first song's coming out in January and then we'll talk to you again in July. I mean, what's happening?
I have all the songs. You're going to love this album. I want
to hear it.
I'll send it to you.
Really?
Right.
Early release.
Early release. Going your way.
Yeah, I feel special right now.
Only you get it though.
All right. I won't put it out. Maybe I'll give Tara out to people every 6 months. Be like, hey guys, I got another one for you 6 months from now.
I'm like, wait, why are these songs? One quick thing.
Yes.
Is I don't know if you've listened to this, but we're going into the holiday season. I wrote a Christmas album a couple years ago, and it was the first thing I put out independently as like, what do I do? Put this out. And it made the New York Times, the LA Times, Seattle.
It's funny, right?
I was like, what the heck's happening right now? It's like I was up there with John Legend and Mariah Carey, Tara Thompson, Hillbilly Christmas. And I'm like, how did the word hillbilly make it in the New York Times?
How did you get a tattoo of it the same way?
I'm like, usually that's what people are like, in jail, a hillbilly got arrested, which nor confirm or deny whether that's happened to me or not. But you got to go listen to this album. It's Hillbilly Christmas. And it's awesome. So that's my
love you to death, kid. You're the best.
You too.
Good to see you. And we'll talk soon. All right.
All right. Sounds good. Right.